Part 110. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1095. The air current swept wildly. Above the ruins of Aurora City, in mid-air, Garen was floating in a white robe, and in front of him was an extremely huge black humanoid mecha. Compared to the mammoth black mecha, his body was only smaller than the opponent's finger, but one man and one mecha were facing each other calmly. The hem of the white robe was blown by the wind, and kept rising and falling. Garen narrowed his eyes slightly and stared at the huge black mecha humanoid in front of him. Two terrifying chi forces continuously erupted from the two bodies, forming two larger monsters fighting each other. The war between the white ice crystal peacock and the huge black humanoid is their chi machine confrontation. The puppet master agrees to my request, otherwise I will die here today, Garen said calmly. Giliasi, you can't just talk nonsense. After today, I will report it to the headquarters, and your behavior of sabotaging the plan will definitely be punished. A deep voice came from the huge sharp mouth of the black humanoid. He was beaten to the door of his house. If he surrendered, he would no longer have to hang out in the star field. Sanctions, Garen looked sarcastic. In that case, don't blame me. His whole body was suddenly covered with a large amount of ice crystals. Countless ice crystals covered and overlapped wildly, quickly covering his whole body. Countless ice crystals expanded Galen's body more and more, becoming bigger and bigger. His body was growing rapidly, and in just a few dozen seconds, he transformed from a tiny humanoid into an ice crystal armored humanoid as huge as a black humanoid. Countless ice crystal wings extended and flapped behind Garen in layers. He was now wearing a set of extremely heavy and gorgeous armor. The ferocious ice armor helmet completely covered his face and head, and no expression could be seen. The highest essence of the Red Snow sect, the Red Snow ice armor, is completely worn. Garen's aura also climbed to level 9 in an instant. No, it's impossible. How did your power recover so quickly? The black humanoid showed an incredible look. Nothing is impossible, Garen sneered. Hover. He raised his right hand high. A huge tornado of white gas suddenly formed, with his finger as the base, spinning crazily towards the sky, driving the entire black cloud in the sky. The entire tornado column was black at the top and white at the bottom, with more and more countless ice crystal fragments gradually increasing in the middle. Star core resonance, the black human figure opened its arms wildly, and its sharp fingers and claws shot out countless black lines, shooting towards Garen in an overwhelming manner. Black lines cut through the space, bringing out cracks in the space. Some skittered across the earth, leaving scars that looked like rot and corrosion. Resonance knife, the black humanoid put his hands together, and a huge black knife burst out from his hands, rushing towards Garen almost instantly at a terrifying speed that exceeded the speed of light. The moment the blade of the blade was shot out, it seemed as if the entire home planet was being pulled out of a large amount of power and concentrated on this blade. Star core resonance, Garen raised the tornado high, and the black and white tornado suddenly froze into an extremely huge icicle, and he swung it downwards. Similarly, the 9th level power suddenly activated, causing the power of the entire planet's star core to converge. This is the unique power of the 9th level powerhouse, which can induce the power of the planet's star core for his own use. This is the greatest and most terrifying power. It breeds all things, but it can also destroy everything. Volcanoes, earthquakes, storms, tsunamis, he is the source of all disasters and the core that gives all life. When the star core resonance is activated, the biggest characteristics will naturally come out. As a 9th level powerhouse, his biggest characteristic exploded instantly. Tens of thousands of times the terrifying gravitational force suddenly spread, erupting from Garen and the black humanoid. An invisible ripple was formed in all directions, and everything affected instantly collapsed and turned into powder particles. It was the result of receiving an incomparable force in an instant and being torn apart the material structure. Tens of thousands of times the control of gravity. This is the most natural manifestation of a ninth-level master. Normally, a ninth-level master restrains the natural gravitational emission in his body, but when fighting with all his strength, this terrifying power can no longer be suppressed. Emitted naturally, causing absolute destruction to the planet. This is the realm of levels. The combat field that will naturally form above the level is not even qualified for those who are not at the same level to get involved. The black and white ice tornado swung down heavily, seemingly slowly, but to outsiders it was just a flash of lightning. The black sword and the tornado collided. Strangely, the black knife suddenly twisted, turned, and shot straight towards Garen. However, the tornado icicle exuded a terrifying cold air, and instantly turned into a huge ice crystal peacock, pecking hard at the black knife that was about to pass by. Dang! Unimaginably harsh and sharp sound waves erupted in all directions. Aurora City collapsed instantly, and the Earth collapsed rapidly under the influence of 10,000 times the force of gravity, gradually turning into an empty black abyss. Two monsters were floating in the air and still fighting. The surrounding mountains and clouds were completely torn apart. The black clouds in the sky dispersed into a huge hole, and golden sunlight beams fell from the sky, shining on the two monsters. Instead, they emitted a thick and dazzling sacred light, just like a battle between gods in mythology. The ice crystal peacock screamed loudly, and the black humanoid roared angrily. The space was shaking, and countless glass-like cracks gradually filled the surrounding space of thousands of kilometers. That's because the space structure here can no longer withstand too much gravity and force vibrations, and the structure has collapsed. The power of the star core was constantly attracted by the two of them, converging on their respective weapons and turning into shining colored silver light. It was a thick energy liquid like mercury, but it reflected rainbow-like light in the sunlight. The icicle tornado and the black knife collided hard, and every collision caused terrifying space shocks. At this moment, everyone on the entire mother planet could notice that the Earth was shaking. It was the unstable trembling caused by the excessive extraction of power from the star core. Thousands of kilometers away from the battlefield, in the area on the edge of the space crack, Turing and the White Light General of the Aurora domain were fighting. The biting cold air surged wildly, turning the entire area into a world of ice. But the moment the star core trembled, the people here also felt it. No. The mother planet can no longer withstand such an intensity of fighting. Turing stopped abruptly, remembering what Garen had mentioned to him before, and his expression suddenly became serious. The power of the two complete ninth-level warriors was so terrifying that the entire home planet could feel the shock of their battle. Twice the punch pressure. In the core battlefield, Garen's ice crystal wings flapped fiercely behind his back, and he instantly rushed close to the black figure. The instantaneous force field formed by the fists actually doubled in size again. Siphon of destruction, the black humanoid sprayed out a large stream of rainbow-like destruction and death, trying to intercept Garen. Boom! The rainbow-like death light was directly punched through. Garen rushed towards the giant humanoid with a hint of a sinister smile. "Do you want to destroy the mother planet?" the black humanoid roared. He didn't expect Garen to be able to burst out with such terrifying power. With a hint of fear, he crazily activated all the power in his body. "I am Duke Nukem of Finite. You can't kill me." Garen ignored it, his fist pressure felt a little sluggish, and he suddenly summoned all his strength. Triple punch pressure. He roared, and his strength strangely increased to 3 times its original level. Ultimate zero destruction. The black humanoid knew that he could not defeat the opponent, and at this moment, he finally used the escape route he had prepared. A black hole suddenly appeared in the center of the huge humanoid body, and a large number of black tentacles spewed out from the hole, like an octopus spewing out countless ink-like poisonous mist, rushing towards Galleon like a tide. It's useless. The force field surrounding Garen's body had reached an unimaginable level. The poisonous mist and the force field fist pressure fought against each other, quickly passing through Garen's body and falling directly behind him. This completely frustrated the other party's idea of escaping in the chaos. The attributes of his whole body have tripled, and combined with the red snow ice armor, he has been strengthened to his strongest state at the moment. At this time, he is no longer just the 9th level that can only be achieved by wearing armor, but is no different from the regular 9th level. Able to fully unleash the power of this level. The terrifying body that reached 120 points was incredibly powerful, but it also brought an unparalleled huge load to him. What was beyond his imagination was that wearing the red snow and ice armor amplified himself. He only felt a sharp cracking pain all over his body after he had tripled this level of amplification. It was obvious that his body could no longer bear it. This is an increase based on the strength of level 9, after all, it is different from not falling down the level. But what was even worse than him was that the black humanoid was about to collapse. The power of the black humanoid Duke of Destruction itself is still a little short of level 9, and he only temporarily relies on the burst of secret techniques to reach this level. The two collided, and he couldn't bear the consumption after just a few strokes. Arousing the power of the Star Core, this power itself will cause a huge burden on one's own body. Being able to temporarily launch a Star Core attack is already very terrifying, but I didn't expect Garen to be able to stabilize in this state. Until now, even the home planet can no longer bear the battle between the two. The planet is trembling and fearful. The Star Core is the source of countless lives, and it itself is also a collection of consciousnesses with countless lives. At this moment, under the shadow of destruction, all life forms instinctively feel the impending destruction from the Star Core. A fear bursting from the depths of his heart continued to spread throughout his heart. Duke Destruction's huge body began to collapse bit by bit. The head of a huge humanoid, a humanoid with purple and black energy flowing all over its body, was covered with countless bloody mouths. White blood slowly flowed out from the wound. Boom! The entire black figure shattered. Duke Destruction's body slowly flew out from his head with the explosion, and fell into the dark abyss of the earth below. "You can't kill me," he finally yelled with difficulty. Garen's figure appeared beside him, also covered in blood, and he grabbed his head with his hands. "How dare you disobey the great Jaliosi?" He lifted the opponent in front of him and said with the ferocious and evil smile unique to Jaliosi. "Do you, the evil Shadow Royal family, want to start a war with me, finite? You can't kill me." Duke Destruction struggled to grab Garen's hand with both hands. "I hate it when people threaten me." The evil smile on Garen's face became even thicker. He didn't expect that Jaliosi was actually a member of the evil Shadow Royal family. He immediately became wary of the muddy waters. If he could get enough detailed information from this person's head, this idea came to his mind. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1096. The evil Shadow Royal family is one of the two most powerful races in the universe. One is finite and the other is the evil Shadow Royal family. They are born with extremely powerful and innate bodies. Their bodies are indestructible and they can reach the inheritance level as adults, but their fertility is extremely low. Garen knew part of this information. He originally thought that Jaliosi was just a bit weird in appearance, but he didn't expect that he actually had such a big background. "No. Don't kill me," the Duke of Nukem in his hand was still screaming. But it's no use. Simply comparing the strength of his physical body, his total strength is not as good as Galen's arm. Garen punched Duke Nukem in the head. Bang! After delivering a fist that could blast an average weapon master into plasma, Duke Nukem's whole body was immediately completely covered by countless frosts, and was directly frozen in absolute ice. Not moving anymore. The battle is over, but the star core of the planet is still shaking slightly. It's time to go see Turing's side. Garen looked around and saw that there were no living or complete things around him. Below is an invisible abyss of darkness, and beyond that are surrounded by countless glacial mountains and ruins frozen by ice. After flying a long distance towards the edge of the abyss, Garin faintly saw Turing standing quietly on the snow in the open space at the edge of the abyss. Surrounding him were people frozen into icicles, among them were white light high-level people in the Aurora domain. And the main ones, the seventh Wind God General and the fourth Wind God General are also among them. Glancing at Turing, Garin nodded with satisfaction. If he hadn't come, these people might have escaped this time. Let's go. The impact of this battle is too wide and will alarm many people. Yes, Great Master. Turing bowed his head respectfully. The eternal light around the two people lit up at the same time, flying all the human icicles directly. Garin took out a black ball and threw it into the air. The ball suddenly expanded and turned into a space jump gate. The two people entered front and back, and the jump door suddenly shrank and disappeared into the air. On an orbiting satellite outside the parent star. The small gray-brown moon is barren, with only dirt and rocks, densely packed with craters and bulge-like volcanoes. In the shadow of one of the volcanic mountains, there is a green grassland on the ground unexpectedly. In the middle of the grassland is a small wooden house. The breeze blows. In front of the wooden house sits a beautiful woman in a white dress. This woman was so cold that she seemed no longer alive. There was no trace of blood on her body, only as clear as a crystal porcelain doll. Her gaze was now looking directly in the direction of her home star. On the dark blue home planet, one can see a circle of transparent ripples bursting out from a distance. Like water ripples, the ripples slowly spread in all directions, becoming lighter and lighter, but in the end they still covered the entire planet's surface. There the woman closed the book in her hand. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. It's Duke Nukem's place. No, for she turned back and looked at the wooden house. Here a twisted shadow floated out of the wooden house and hovered in front of the woman. Why did the Bounderuse parasite of the evil Shadow royal family come here? You go and deal with him, the woman said calmly, so as not to affect the plan. Do I need to kill him? Shadow asked. No need, the woman shook her head slightly. The forces of the evil Shadow royal family are not the ones we should deal with right now, and the time has not yet come. Hasn't Gelias's sister been looking for him? Tell her the news about her brother. Open the direct jump for her door, she will definitely come. Shadow suddenly understood. Indeed, the evil Shadow royal family is famous for disowning their relatives. They also made great efforts in this plan. If they knew that Gelias dared to sabotage the plan, what would his sister do? I really look forward to it, Shadow used a gloating expression. The tone said. What you want will not appear. Gelias and his sister have the best relationship. Just like siblings among humans, they can even share the power in their hands and control 1,600 planets together. The greatest possibility is to take it away, the woman replied calmly. Of course, if you tell his father, maybe the result will be the same as you think. But it is not appropriate for us to break up with the evil Shadow royal family now. Then, let's do it, the Shadow responded and rose directly into the sky. It turned into a black slender beam and flew directly into space. In an instant, it burrowed into the space like a fish and disappeared. It entered the counter space. The woman calmly put down the book and walked into the wooden house without making any sound again. On a distant blood-red planet. Dragon Emperor Star. This is the star domain of the evil Shadow royal family, located in the middle of the finite nebula. As one of the strongest races in the universe, the evil Shadow royal family brutally rules thousands of planets under their command. Their tribe is actually only one family of 5 people. This is the entire evil Shadow royal family. The total number is only 5 people. At the top of the highest mountain range on Dragon Emperor planet, an extremely majestic bloody palace thousands of meters wide was built. The bottom of the palace is located on the sharp top of the mountain, as if the entire palace is supported by the contact surfaces of the peaks. In the palace, a charming woman wearing a tight-fitting black silk dress sat lazily on the highest throne. Black bloody air currents were constantly flying in the hall, and the heads of these air currents were all screaming in pain. Humanoid face. The girl is like the most elegant aristocratic princess, giving people a strange and contradictory feeling of being coquettish but with a hint of innocence. Slender waist, slender legs, fair and jade-like skin, towering breasts, and beautiful watery eyes. If there were no strange halls around her, and just looking at this woman alone, perhaps anyone would think that she was an aristocratic princess from a certain country. She was elegant, pure, and her dress gave people a vague sense of coquettishness. Completely inconsistent with her own temperament, the girl's lazy posture on the seat slowly moved, her hands were pressed on the seat handles, and an unimaginable aura of terror and majesty burst out of her body. A faint light of blood suddenly bloomed in her eyes, and the bright red blood color disappeared in a flash. Number 4? What are you doing here? Could it be that the woman who calls herself the controller is up to something else? In an instant, the girl changed from a pure and charming girl to a queen of all things. Her chin was slightly raised, as if everything in the world was only worthy of her looking down. A shadow slowly appeared in the middle of the hall. It was number 4 who came from the distant home star. Regarding the girl's gaze, he also understood that the other party was qualified. The evil Shadow royal family is theoretically the most powerful and noble race in the entire known universe. They are equivalent to the 4th level of consciousness when they are born. As long as they reach adulthood, they can reach the inheritance level, without exception. With a little effort you can avoid falling down. And because of their natural abilities, their combat effectiveness far exceeds those of the same level. The girl in front of her was called the most powerful genius of Evil Shadow, the Holy Lord of Blood. Respect the noble Blood Lord. No 4's respectful voice came from the shadows. Please forgive me for coming here. I am here to tell you a very important news. Important news? The girl raised her eyebrows slightly. Tell me the story. The countless black and red faces in the hall began to slowly fly and rotate around number 4. Each face reveals the desire for blood, giving people a ferocious and evil feeling. Number 4 didn't feel nervous at all. He knew that the other party would not hurt him. After all, he was the representative controller and represented the White King's power. My Highness has now ascended to the high throne, and the chess pieces he laid out decades ago have begun to work. But at the critical moment, your brother Jalius doesn't know why he appears in a territory that does not belong to him. Number 4 was calm. Replied. Jalius, the Blood Holy Lord frowned slightly. Not bad. Number 4 affirmed, His Royal Highness Jalius actually captured the Duke of Destruction in our plan. I wonder what the intention was. The controller asked me to come over and inform you. Please take measures as soon as possible. The girl frowned slightly and did not answer immediately, but flicked her fingers. Laugh. A bit of black light suddenly exploded in front of her, turning into a clear black mirror. The annihilation of the Energy Masters is a destined plan. The finite government, the evil Shadow royal family, and the Human Alliance Parliament all have their own roles and positions in it. My brother has always had his own importance. Now tell me about him. Captured Duke Nukem and planned to sabotage the plan. The Bloodlord's tone gradually became stern. Number 4 was not at all afraid of the other party's sullenness. This is what the controller means, I'm just conveying it. He reached out and pointed, and the black mirror in front of the Bloodlord slowly showed the scene of Garen's battle with Duke Destruction. The Holy Lord of Blood quietly read the above content. Is this a destructive punch? She saw the secret martial arts used by Garen. Exactly. Number 4 confirmed in a low voice. The atmosphere suddenly became a little solid. I don't know how long it took, but neither of them spoke. The airflow from human faces flew faster and faster. I will go there myself. The Holy Lord of Blood seemed to have sensed something was wrong. After number 4 achieved its goal, it turned into a black shadow and shot towards the outside of the hall without stopping. Then I look forward to His Highness's arrival. The last voice left, and the shadow had completely disappeared into the hall. Destructive impact punch? It has actually reached the third time. Didn't he dislike this kind of pure power before? Looking at the picture in the mirror repeatedly, a trace of blood appeared in the eyes of the Blood Lord again. Before I challenge the White King, my stupid brother, you gave me a nice surprise. The inexplicable look in the girl's eyes became more and more intense. Home planet. The entire mother planet was in chaos at this time. Black Pan territory, Maria territory, Logoya territory, and other college representatives from various colleges in the College Alliance were silent for a period of time after the war. After all, they all sent their experts to the Aurora City area to investigate the situation. In any case, they are the forces of the home star, and this war is a hurdle they cannot avoid. They must investigate the impact on the entire home star. When a large number of masters with inherited levels arrived at Aurora City and were frightened by the vast abyss, Garen and Turing had already brought the captured masters from Aurora City to the radiation area of their home star. Klin and others will return soon. In other words, the energy tide will explode soon. Garen had to be ready for anything. Energy tides are not just about the energy fluctuations of a planet, but huge energy flows flowing through the entire universe. They are triggered by the instantaneous transmission across the universe, resulting in tidal fluctuations. However, this fluctuation happens to be near the mother star. It just happens. Hipan City, the capital of the Black Pan territory. Black Star Diophi sat tiredly in the dean's seat, holding in his hand the cane that his teacher gave him before he died. Sitting below him is Sanyuan, the new Sanyuan. Red-eyed Metro, Blanding, and another bald man. 3 UN and 1 star, this is the top management of the Black Disk domain now run by the younger generation. Each of them accepted the origin of their teacher and became the top master, supporting the entire Black Disk domain. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1097. The weather anomalies are getting bigger and stronger, Diophi said with a heavy heart. The Meteorological Monitoring Bureau has identified the source of the unusually heavy snow, which is the same source of force as the earthquake that broke out some time ago. There are calls from other domains. The main city of Aurora has been destroyed. They have also detected that most of the components of the power of destruction are related to the fluctuations that produce such heavy snow weather, Metro said in a deep voice. Mariana from the Maria domain hopes to join forces with us. They also discovered that a huge disaster may erupt covering the entire planet in a while, and the cause cannot be detected at all. The Luia territory has also come to the same conclusion. The combined population of tens of millions of Titan City and Aurora City will be gone. Such power should not exist on the home planet. People from the Luia territory are likely to cover it next. The root cause of the huge global disaster is this force that exceeds limits. Someone from Central College has arrived, along with dozens of top celebrities and masters, the last bald man whispered. What do they mean? Diophi asked tiredly. Dean, we have no choice. We must eradicate the root cause of all this. The bald man raised his voice. If the root cause cannot be eliminated, the immediate disaster will swallow up everyone, all of us. No one will be left. Diophi closed his eyes, feeling physically and mentally tired, with a deep depression pressing on him, as if he couldn't breathe. All the evidence converges on that person. He is the source of everything. As long as he is removed, I believe everything will return to normal. Baldhead said loudly. Bang. The door to the battleship conference hall was pushed open heavily. He's right. A tall man in white strode in with several people. The man has a young face, but there is a trace of vicissitudes and precipitation in his eyes, which is obviously much older than his appearance. I am afraid of fire. The Central Academy detected abnormal high-energy biological fluctuations entering the black disk domain before arriving, but did not pay attention to it. It is a pity that if we had noticed that person at the beginning, perhaps such a tragedy would not have occurred now. He said with a serious expression. 30 million people were destroyed by that man in the war. He showed a heartfelt expression of pain. This is no longer just a man-made disaster. We must treat it as a natural disaster. Dean Fear of Fire Diofi stood up and said with respect. The stability of our mother planet is the foundation of everything we have. And the people are the foundation of everything. Whether it is for the upcoming disaster or for the sin and bloodshed that is too heavy to bear. The murderer of all this must give an explanation. Xingguo said solemnly, I have informed the reclusive old dean. I believe that all the non-relegated people in all major states have begun to gather for this war. We will definitely win. Diofi nodded solemnly. A few days later, Black Pan Domain. In a deserted mountain villa. Galen took Turing to occupy this holiday villa, and the original owner was directly prompted by them to leave. He also killed a nearby group of robbers who were preparing to attack the villa. The snow in the sky of Black Pan Domain is getting heavier and heavier. A thick layer of white snow has accumulated on the ground, and the entire land has changed from warm season to winter in an instant. In the study room of the villa, Garen looked at the girl Tesna, who had been frozen into a lump of ice. Although this somewhat stunned girl has similar appearance and temperament to the female disciples he had accepted before, her personality is completely different. This guy has an upright personality and is a bit stunned. Even when the war caused a global earthquake, this guy still foolishly insisted on burying himself in the soil. If Garen hadn't suddenly remembered that there was a test guy still in the ground, the girl might have been completely frozen to death. To put it bluntly, this kind of personality is just one-sided. At best, it is called upright, but at worst, it is called a fool. There is still one person missing. You are not doing things well. Galen sat in the study and looked at Turing, who was kneeling in front of him. The huge werewolf was as tall as him on his knees. It's my subordinate's incompetence, Turing said guiltily, because I was shocked by the vibration of the star core. That person used space to jump long distance to escape. Everything is my subordinate's responsibility. Please punish me, Lord. I'll leave this matter to you. Garen closed his eyes to rest, as if he was too lazy to say anything more, and just waved his hand casually. He is now adjusting his whole body and mind to prepare himself for the energy tide that will burst out tomorrow. My subordinates will do their best to capture and return the last person. Turing stood up, answered decisively, and strode out of the study. The door closed gently. Not long after, a figure pushed open the door again. Not Turing, but a white light ice dragon. This inheritance-level master dressed like a nouveau riche walked in with a calm expression. Are you going to imprison us here like this? He walked over to Garen and pulled up a chair and sat down. There was no sense of urgency at all. Isn't it possible? Garen opened his eyes and smiled. I have to say that Ice Dragon is very handsome and elegant when he is calm. Although I don't know why he pretends to be a nouveau riche on weekdays, it is obvious that he is also a person with a story. It is a pity that Garen is not interested. Know his story? Beluga and the others asked me to come over and ask you what they are going to do to us, Bing Long asked casually. He glanced at Garen. This man, whom he had only met briefly, had gone from a mere resonance level back then to an unimaginably terrifying state. It had only taken more than 10 years in between. So much so that he still didn't dare to confirm that Garen was the resonance student he had fought with back then. Garen looked at this rumored madman strangely. You think I'm going to kill you? Isn't it? Bing Long raised his eyebrows. The permanent population of Titan City is over 6.8 million, plus the floating population, tens of millions of people can be killed at will. In your eyes, the tens of millions of people in Aurora City may be no more than ants under your feet. Kill just a few of us. Is there any need to hesitate? Hearing a trace of resentment in his tone, Garen smiled slightly. Do you believe it? There will be an overwhelming change and disaster coming soon. Aren't you? Bing Long said flatly. Garen ignored him. This disaster is doomed. All people with consciousness will be severely damaged, and the home planet will become a mess. No one will be qualified to generate consciousness. Therefore, they will be isolated from the external universe and only qualified to become a testing ground for apex beings. Bing Long frowned. What do you mean by this? Garen glanced at him. The funny thing is, everyone thinks I am the culprit of this disaster, he said with a hint of amusement. Now they are gathering together, planning to attack me together. For this disaster that has nothing to do with me. Do you think it's ridiculous? I don't think it's ridiculous, Bing Long replied calmly. He has been struggling and fighting on the line of life and death all year round in order to break through the limit. Unfortunately, his qualifications are limited and he can only reach the peak of the inheritance level. Among all the captured white light executives, only he is really not afraid of death. Aren't you the culprit? Garen shook his head. There was no explanation, and he knew that to outsiders now, any explanation would be a cover-up. He had made preparations to absorb the energy tide. The black cloud covering the three domains was considered to be the murderer of the energy tide. This was something he did not expect. Standing up, Garen didn't kill everyone immediately. Even he didn't know the reason. He just followed his mood. Except for the seventh wind god general, Phyla escaped without a trace, and the others were unfrozen by him and walked freely in the villa. Walking to the window, Garen looked out through the window glass. It was still snowing in the sky, and heavy snow continued to cover the ground, layer after layer. The world seemed to have suddenly turned into a world of ice and snow. There are no specks of people visible outside. With such bad weather and the vibrations some time ago, if anyone dares to walk around in such wild places, they really want to die. Aurora Realm was completely destroyed. Black Pen Realm, Maria Realm, Luia Realm, Central Academy, and masters from other states all gathered towards me. Do they think they are playing games? All the heroes, if we join forces, can we deal with me? Garen said calmly. There was a hint of sarcasm on his face. The mother planet is not only supported by local forces, Bing Long said calmly. Of course I know, this is the territory of the Mechanic Master. Garen smiled. The biggest controller behind this place is the magnetic field? Nebula or Black Knife? It should be Nebula. It's not just a force, it is a testing ground jointly occupied by the three major forces. The Ice Dragon's pupils shrank slightly. A testing ground. This was also the first time he heard such a secret. Okay, it's time to go see our dear seventh wind god general. Garen patted the non-existent dust on his body, dressed in a white robe as white as snow, walked out of the study and walked downstairs. There were more than 10 people sitting in the lobby on the first floor, all of whom were top executives of Baiguang. The only one standing among them was the Envoy of Light, the most powerful man among them. A figure covered in white robes. Garen glanced at the group of people and saw that they were wary and frightened and did not dare to look at him, so they all lowered their gazes. The twisted seeds they have been taking in the past few days should start to take effect slowly. After a little more time, it can be condensed into a force and used for one's own use. Ignoring these people for the time being, Garen walked directly to the basement, with the ice dragon following closely behind him. Garen did not hesitate to follow him. The basement is dark and cold. In a block of ice in the middle, except for the head of the seventh wind god, the rest of his body is frozen in the ice block and cannot move. Why don't you kill me? The seventh wind god general's face was pale, without any blood. When he saw Garen coming down, he still maintained a cold and stern expression. Kill you? Garen shook his head. Back then, You slapped me, almost insulating me from being a pilot, but you failed to kill me. So I won't kill you for the time being. I really regret that I didn't kill you back then, the seventh wind god general said harshly. He already knew that he would never be spared, so he simply let go. If I had known that you would grow to this point now, I should have made up my mind to break up with Laolu and kill you, and these things wouldn't have happened now. Had you known it earlier? If you had known it earlier, you wouldn't have been just a heritage-level person until now, Garen said sarcastically. No one can predict the future of the person they meet. You know, if you had known it earlier, this ability is only possessed by that person, he said with profound meaning. What's the use of talking about this now? Just kill me. The seventh wind god general closed his eyes. Isn't that why you came here? Kill you? You are the best material, why should I kill you? Garen showed a strange look. I just want to study how to read the memory ability of masters. The memory ability of ordinary people can theoretically be copied. Partially, but it's different for a master. You can barely be considered a master. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1098. Four-Ring Star Alliance. Is it really okay to do this? Burin looked worried as he watched Krillin place mushroom-like explosives of various sizes close to the stone wall of the cave. Don't worry, Bai Dong said, it's okay. It must be okay, Klin replied affirmatively. Even though the fair-skinned boy on the side is wearing a miner's special gray cloth uniform, he looks pretty and cute. He doesn't look like a boy at all. Anyone who sees him at first glance will think that he is a flat-chested boy. Girl. The snow-white skin seemed to be translucent, and a pair of ears that seemed to be animal ears were looming in the long white hair, shaking from time to time. His big, watery eyes looked at Klin, and he could reveal a timid and cute look even without realizing it. Coupled with her figure, round and slender legs, and perky buttocks, she has reached the devilish level that girls dream of, almost the same as Bolan next to her. He is Bai Dong, a good friend that Klin and others met in this mining area. Because of his special constitution, this guy naturally radiates coldness all over his body, so no one wants to get close to him, but Klin sees him working alone. It was unbearably slow. A pretty girl was actually doing the same amount of work as a man in such pain, so she went to help. Unexpectedly, after helping, she realized that the other person was also a man, so the three of them got to know each other. But what if so many explosive mushrooms blow up the entire mining area? Burin said helplessly, and she played the role of persuasion when Chayu was resting. However, she found that Klin now looked more and more like Chayu. He didn't learn much about being cautious. Instead, he learned about 7 or 8 points of being impulsive and regardless of anything. Bai Dong, tell me, you don't need so much explosives to blow up the passage from here to the secret room above, right? Burin looked at Bai Dong helplessly. Me, Bai Dong's face turned red and he didn't dare to look at Klin. His two furry brown animal ears kept swaying. She looked like a girl who was confused. Burin covered his face helplessly. Why did it take so long for Uncle Chayu to contact him about his parts? Come back quickly. Why do you always feel that Klin is becoming more and more unreliable? It would be great if the eldest brother was here. She thought of her brother Nono again. The eldest brother was a genius and seemed to know everything. If he was the eldest brother, there would be no problem. It's a pity that this is an extremely winter star, too far away from the home star. I wonder how Big Brother is doing now. With his talent, he will definitely be able to break through the inheritance level. Burin leaned against the stone wall and thought blankly, he will definitely not be an ordinary person like me without the mecha. So weak. Once the secret room is opened, Uncle Chayu can activate the resonance and make the parts fly out. You must act quickly, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous when the Ghost King finds out. Klin finally attached an explosive mushroom to the roof of the stone wall. After the three of them got to know each other, they unexpectedly discovered that the king of ghost mechas here was the master who ruled the entire mining area, and Chayu's parts were controlled by him. So after thinking hard for a while, they came up with a plan that could make Chayu entering it leads to extracting their own parts, and then everyone borrows the energy erupted when the parts merge to connect the anti-space tunnel leading to the home star. In just a moment, they can jump directly back to the home star. The Ghost King will never be able to catch up. This plan was naturally planned by Chiyu. What the three of them did not expect was that Bai Dong was actually a natural planner. He helped Chiyu fill in a series of details and a loophole, which impressed Klin and Burin. In a promise, he was included in the category of Star General. However, other king-level Star Generals are absolutely powerful, and they are still in a period of trouble. The so-called Star Generals have nothing but empty promises and a set of personal training methods. They are extremely shabby. But Bai Dong was still very happy. Ever since he became the Red Moon Star General, he always liked to peek at Klin. She looked like a young girl pregnant with spring. Let's go, let's stay away. Klin motioned for the two of them to leave the explosion area. As the three of them got farther away, a faint black mist suddenly began to fill the mushrooms here. The mist is connected with each other, and there is a faint sense of instability and restlessness. Boom! Amidst the roar, a violent explosion broke out, and the entire ghost mining area was in an uproar. All the workers who were still mining suddenly became a little restless. A trace of joy flashed in the eyes of some of them. They also participated in this plan. We must succeed, a middle-aged uncle prayed silently, we must escape, Bai Dong, Klin, Burin. Only if you escape can we be rescued. We must, we must. Suddenly, the sky in the entire mining area darkened, and a huge black mecha broke out of the ground, soared into the sky, and floated in mid-air. My secret room. How dare you, little mice? He stretched out his big hands tens of meters and grasped the ground hard. But in an instant, a dazzling white beam shot up into the sky, directly punching a large gap in his palm. The pain caused the black mecha to retreat and roar in fear. The light of the ruins. Damn it! Soon, densely packed black ghost mechas flew up all around the sky. They set up long-range weapons and blasted at the light beam without any fear. The light of various weapons suddenly exploded, and the entire sky burst into dazzling and coquettish colored lights. Nothing could be seen clearly for an instant, only a white beam of light broke out of the encirclement and penetrated into the sky. Hiss! A big hole was directly punched out in the clouds in the sky, and countless white clouds rotated around the light pillar, which was extremely sacred, as if it was the holy light that went straight to heaven. My treasure! No, the red eyes in the Ghost King's helmet were flashing violently, but he could only watch the beam of light soar into the sky and leave, unable to stop it at all. Ha 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 ha! It's successful! How could it fail if I take action? Chayu's wild laughter rang in the ears of the three people. Within the white beam, a huge scarlet mecha slowly took shape. The mecha's head, arms, and legs were all filled with ferocious and sharp spikes. A long metal tail full of barbs slowly swayed behind it. The tip of the tail is unusually sharp. Attention, I can now form a 1% projection mecha for half an hour. The three of you can pilot this mecha together, but you must be careful about energy consumption. Being injured will consume energy, and the magnification move also consumes energy. Everything requires energy support. If you are still fighting after the energy is gone, then everyone will finish the game together, Chayu explained carefully. I'm too lazy to worry about this now. Can I finally go back to my home planet? Now I can finally have a good rest, Klin said tiredly, floating in the white light. It's too early to rest. Let's get to the home planet first. I don't know what the situation is like there now. It's been a few years since we came out, Burin said in a low voice. Bai Dong seemed a little sad instead. After all, Jiadong Star was his hometown. I miss you, sister. Klin also felt sad, I want to eat bread. I don't know if the business in the store is as good as before. If only my brother were here. If only my brother were here. Almost at the same time, Burin and Bai Dong said the same words together. The two of them immediately stopped talking and looked at each other in surprise. They immediately saw their admiration for their brother in each other's eyes, and immediately felt a sense of sympathy for each other. But life. The white light wrapped the three people and flew rapidly through the counter space. The counter space was different from the normal universe. There were strange rainbow-like lights and shadows everywhere. A large amount of light and heat were recycled and condensed by the stars. The form exuded huge gravity, and streaks of color's optical magnetic field. Nebula and meteorites are erupted from stars from time to time. The stars here do not possess attraction, but repulsion, and each one is astonishingly large. Stars are the smallest among them. They absorb a lot of light, heat, and cosmic dust like light bulbs. It's so beautiful. Bolen looked at the scenery outside through the white light for a while, feeling relaxed and happy. This is counter space. I hope we are lucky enough not to encounter void creatures, otherwise there will be some trouble. Void creatures are the most annoying in counter space, Ji said carefully. In the past, I could crush these bugs with just one slap. But now, this mecha has less than 1% of my strength. It is still a projection and has limited energy. If you encounter void creatures, you will be lucky. Bar. When these words were spoken, Clin and the others immediately became vigilant. Always be prepared for emergencies. As time passed bit by bit, just when the three of them thought nothing would happen again, the mecha beam prepared to travel through the counter space and return to the positive universe. Puff. Suddenly, a huge pale arm slapped the mecha in the beam hard. The arm stretched out from the darkness of the void, carrying infinite power. I smell the aroma of flesh and blood, an ancient and huge voice sounded. The beam was distorted by a hard slap, and the red mecha inside was knocked out with a bang, and it bounced off and hit an asteroid nearby. When the three of them were stunned, another huge pale arm grabbed them. Flash, Chiyu yelled, it's a four-armed giant. Trouble. Run now. Clin and the others had just realized what was going on, and quickly sat in the mecha to communicate with the mecha with their consciousness, and flew fiercely in one direction. Clin controls the main body behavior of the mecha, Burin coordinates the energy flow, and Bai Dong controls the tail and special abilities of the mecha. Although there are still some gaps in the cooperation between the three of them, the first cooperation is already pretty good. Narrowly avoiding the white arm as huge as an asteroid, the red mecha is about the same size as a human hand compared to the arm, and the size contrast is extremely obvious. In the dark universe, a pale giant with four arms slowly crawled out of the black void. He had the same facial features as a human, a bald head, and wore a simple black leather skirt. His four arms stretched out in all directions, and his whole body the muscles are knotted like a mythical titan. Flesh and blood. Fresh flesh and blood, the four-armed giant roared. This is the language of the void, which is similar to the language of ancient Yinduo. If Garen is here, he will definitely be able to understand his words. The two races of ancient Yinduo and void creatures they are entangled together, learning from each other, and studying each other for a long time. It is no longer clear who has influenced whom more. Good boy. Such a big one. Clin looked back while driving the Red Moon mecha, and suddenly saw only a little finger of the four-armed giant slapping him straight. Laugh. The Chayu mecha rushed forward fiercely, bursting out at high speed, and rushed into the white light beam again, narrowly avoiding the bulky four-armed giant. It's so dangerous, I'm scared to death, Chiyu's voice finally sounded. It's such a stupid big guy like the four-armed giant. If he really hits him, I guarantee that the four of us will become little pancakes in an instant. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1099. Burin also wiped the cold sweat from her forehead. At that moment, She really felt as if she was about to be hit. As for Bai Dong, he was so scared that he shrank into a ball. Not to mention controlling the mecha, he didn't even dare to open his eyes. Sitting motionless in his cockpit. What was that big guy talking about just now? Clint asked after coming back to his senses. I don't know, no one understands the language of void creatures, Chayu replied helplessly. Speaking of void creatures, they are at most wild animals in the universe, just like the wild lions and tigers you see on the planet. Some are protected animals, and some are fixed resources. There are many kinds. This is protecting animals. Clint was speechless. That slap could blow up a smaller planet, right? Does such a monster still need protection? It's endangered, you know. Chiyu didn't care to answer. The four-armed giant is as big as a planet, which is normal. They are extremely rare, and it is normal for them to be protected. Suddenly he seemed to realize something was wrong. Huh? Chayu found that the light beam seemed to start to oscillate and fluctuate. Suddenly a thought flashed through his mind. Isn't it so unlucky? What's wrong? Clint also asked. There won't be another big guy like just now, right? Burin also felt that his heart couldn't bear it. It can't be worse than that big guy. Chayu's voice became dry. Before he finished speaking, a rainbow-like ripple of light suddenly hit him from the side. Buzz. The three of them felt dizzy, spinning in the mecha, and almost passed out completely in an instant. Energy tide. Only Chayu's last roar left a little wave in the rainbow light, and then disappeared. On a star far away in counter space. A tall mecha with gold armor quietly looked at the red mechas swallowed by the rainbow tide. The Red King, a low-level king who has only fallen once, is he qualified to be compared with my lord? He stands at the decision-making point of fate. The eyes of the golden mecha are jade-like emeralds, emitting a faint green fluorescence. The fluorescence is not obscured even by this dazzling star. I really don't know why the king keeps him. Wouldn't it be better to just kill him? Kill. Countless stellar flames and materials rolled behind the mecha, and magma and high-heat gas mixed together to form a woman's face that was several kilometers in size. Destiny is the most elusive. Do you think the Lord has never had such an idea? But the strange thing is that when you are in front of him, there is no killing intention for no reason. No matter what choice you make, fate can make adjustments. If you kill a red king, another king of some kind may appear from the hiding place. The huge human face stood upright behind the mecha and slowly opened its mouth. Instead of killing him and letting the known become the unknown, why not keep monitoring it in the palm of your hand? The golden mecha seemed to have some realization. As expected of the king, we cannot compare with this level of courage. When we deal with our enemies, we must eradicate them at their root. He is even able to treat his enemies with justice and fairness. Isn't this kind of tolerance the reason why we are willing to follow him? Flameface said calmly. That's right, the golden mecha nodded. Fate is fair. Some people are destined not to die. And some people are destined to die somewhere. Change requires a huge price, because it is a change of the general trend, the Flameface said lightly. My lord is the general trend, the golden mecha said calmly. Home planet. Bang. An eyeball on the face of Garen's seventh wind god general suddenly exploded and turned into a sticky, fuzzy substance that spread all over the floor. Ah, Feng Shen general screamed and cried. Kill me. Did you fail again? Garen reluctantly retracted his hand. This is already the fifth time. You're really lucky that your brain didn't turn into an idiot. Kill me. The seventh wind god general was covered in blood, his body was swollen to the point of being in human shape, and some places were leaking foul-smelling pus. He had been tortured to the point of becoming in human shape. The last time Garen made a new plan, it's really the last time, he already felt that he was impatient to transform other foreign objects. Wasn't it easy to transform himself in the totem world? Why is it so difficult to read memory fluctuations this time? He can easily solve his own delicate work, but he can't handle other external objects. Finally, he pressed his hand on the head of the seventh wind god general, and an inexplicable wave slowly passed through, making the ice dragon beside him tremble with fear. He had stood far enough away, but the screams of the seventh wind god general still made him shudder. Not long after, Garen's closed eyes suddenly opened. Peng! The other eye of the seventh wind god general also exploded. Lord, the person you want has been caught. Turing's voice entered Galen's mind. Bring them in. Garen sent a message back. Yes. Soon, 3 people walked into the basement. To be precise, the two-headed werewolf carried 2 people and strode into the basement. Those 2 people were faces that Bing Long was also very familiar with. Philadelphia, and Remington. Remington was still dying, but when he saw the seventh wind god general nailed to the wall of the secret room, his eyes widened instantly, almost to the point of bursting open. Father! No, no, he struggled violently, trying to break free from Turing's hand. Garen signaled Turing to let go. Bang! Remington immediately rushed over and hugged the seventh wind god general's legs tightly. Father! How is this possible? Tears and snot flowed out from his eyes. His hands were trembling, and he gently stroked General Fengshen's swollen wound. Is it Remington? The seventh wind god general asked weakly. Yes. It's me, Remington answered loudly. He suddenly remembered something, turned around suddenly, and knelt down towards Garen. Bang! 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 One by one, they kept knocking their heads hard towards Garen. Please! Please let my father go! Please, he cried and begged. Blood suddenly came out of his forehead, and his flesh and blood were blurred. No, the seventh wind god general struggled loudly, don't ask him. Don't ask him. He tried hard to raise his hand to grab his son, but his strength was too weak and there was nothing he could do. You must die standing up, he yelled with his last strength. Remington didn't care, he just kowtowed to Garen desperately. Garen ignored Remington, but looked at Phyla, who had a miserable expression on his side. Long time no see, Phyla, he greeted the other party like an old friend. It's been a long time indeed. Phyla was very calm. Perhaps because he realized that he was bound to die, he also completely let go of his fear and accepted everything calmly. Back then, you chose to go against me and wanted to kill me. I always remember that gift in the hospital. Garen smiled, now I'm back to return the gift. I will accept any gift. Isn't it just death? Phyla smiled lightly. If you kneel down and beg me like him, maybe I might consider letting you go. Garen touched his chin and smiled. Is it possible? Phyla smiled faintly. I know that masters like you have very high requirements for your mental state. When I dealt with you, you had a knot in your mind. If you don't kill me, will you feel better? You do understand? Garen was slightly surprised. No matter what I do, I will die in the end anyway, so I might as well die calmly. Phyla was unusually calm. It's a pity that a talent like you is not qualified enough, otherwise there may be higher development. Garen shook his head, he slowly stretched out his hand, and gently touched the center of Phyla's eyebrows with his index finger. He can't read the memory of inheritance level masters, but it's not that difficult for resonance level masters. His countless information flows crazily poured into his mind under the arrangement of the energy mark. Scenes from birth to growth, to experiencing life and death battles, and constantly becoming stronger. Phyla's life continued to flash before Garen's eyes like a movie. Suddenly he seemed to see something strange. Uncle, uncle! What delicious food did you bring us today? A group of children surrounded Phyla in the orphanage, with happy smiles on their faces. These are gem candies and synthetic sausages. Everyone has one. Don't grab it. Phyla, with an unprecedented gentle smile, distributed the candies and food held by her hands to the orphans below. Next time if you want to eat candy, you must pass the teacher's test. You know, Phyla warned all the orphans present as if she was a different person. I know, a group of children answered loudly. As the screen flickered, one orphanage after another appeared. At an unknown time, Phyla used her true face to fund the establishment of a war orphanage at first, but later she had to put on a false face for various reasons. Gradually, fewer and fewer people know that he supports orphans, and it becomes more and more secretive. In front of others, he is a sinister, cruel, and domineering black genius, but at other times when no one knows about him, he will secretly use a large amount of money to support orphans who have been displaced by the war. Withdrawing his hand, Garen looked at Phyla in front of him with some confusion. At this time, his eyes had become dull because his memory was forcibly red, and saliva flowed from the corner of his mouth. Human nature is really complicated, Garen couldn't help but sigh. Didn't Your Excellency say that the human form has yin and yang, and everyone will naturally seek a balance between mind and body? This is inevitable, Turing replied respectfully. Yes, Garen gently tapped Phyla's head. Bang! The blood arrow shot out from the back of his head, and the force instantly penetrated the brain, completely ending Phyla's life. The body fell to the ground, making no sound anymore. Balance is a natural principle of the universe, but every time I see an example like this, I can't help but feel emotional. Garen looked back at Remington, who was kowtowing to the point of dying and lying limply aside. The feelings shown by this ruthless playboy at this moment are not sincere enough. Pity. Garen stretched out his hand, and an ice-blue jagged mouth suddenly opened in his palm. Countless blue threads spurted out from it, part of which wrapped around the seventh wind god general, and part of which went toward another connected secret room inside. One last try. He closed his eyes. Laugh. That was the sound of the thread piercing the head of the seventh wind god general, and at the same time, the sound of the thread piercing the head of Duke Destruction in the inner room. Their vital signs quickly disappeared. At the same time, countless colorful lights began to fill the sky outside. It was as if the entire sky was filled with a large number of rainbows. Dozens of rapidly shooting mecha figures rushed toward Garen's villa. Diofi, Fear of Fire, and other mechas controlled by decrepit masters all gathered here. He is causing a catastrophe. He must be stopped immediately, Fear of Fire directly transmitted the message. Superior. Without any negotiation, dozens of top experts suddenly started their engines, and huge rays of eternal light rushed from all directions toward the villas in the mountains and forests below. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1100. Beam. Gather together. The four wings of the Dreadfire mecha were spread out on its back, and a red beam of light suddenly shot out from the end of each wing. The beam of light was still burning like a flame, bending and converging in front of him, forming a bright red ball of light. The ball of light expanded and became larger, and the red light dyed everything near here like a small sun red. Destruction laser. The ball of light seemed to be pulled by a huge force and suddenly shot downwards. At the same time, the other immortals unleashed their strongest abilities one after another. The mecha's burst of light concentrated as much as possible, and colorful and various forms of attacks bombarded downwards. Useless. A figure in white robes slowly walked out of the villa, looking up at the mecha in the sky. Following his words, a transparent barrier slowly appeared in the air around the entire villa. All attacks disappear instantly upon contact with the barrier, as if stones were submerged in the water. Attack, Terrorfire roared. All the mechas continuously and frantically increase their energy flow, and terrifying electric-like colored lights continue to fall from the sky and rush into the transparent film in front of Garen. Garen didn't pay any attention to these people, but looked up at the increasingly colorful rainbow light in the sky. Coming soon. His gaze became deeper and deeper. Suddenly, a white beam of light shot down from space. Bang! The light beam fell not far away, and something seemed to fall in the huge beam with a diameter of several thousand meters. As the beam of light falls, there is a circle of actual rainbow halo. The air stirred up, with transparent swirling air currents appearing everywhere, and a sound like a shrill trumpet sounded from the sky. The woods and forests were suddenly ignited, the fires burst into flames, and the black clouds rolled and stirred. It was squeezed to both sides by the white light pillars and rainbow lights, but unwilling to close it again, covering the entire sky. White snowflakes were circling and flying, spinning crazily around the entire white light main body, as if turning into white streams. The ground shook again. This time, it's really here. Garin raised his right hand and pointed his palm toward the white beam of light. Star core resonance. Following the whispered words, strands of red light suddenly emerged from the ground beneath Garin's feet, quickly gathering into the palm of his hand like water. This red light is getting thicker and thicker, more and more. He is extracting the power of the star core. Stop him, fearing Huo was well informed and suddenly became anxious. All of a sudden, everyone who was not downgraded increased their power output, but they were shocked to find that their attacks couldn't even break through the opponent's defensive barrier force field. Some of them were already showing signs of despair. The seemingly gorgeous mechas were of no use to Garin at this moment. Those energies seemed to be swallowed up by a bottomless pit, and instantly disappeared on the barrier without a trace. The snow is getting heavier and heavier, the sky and the earth are foggy, and nothing can be seen. Only the white beam of light still stood between heaven and earth. Countless ice slowly covered Garin's body surface, forming red snow and ice armor, and pairs of huge, slender ice and snow wings slowly condensed behind him. Suddenly, Garin took a step forward. Prim arch. Reveal. He suddenly opened his arms as if to embrace the entire sky. In space universe. A large black cloud patch suddenly spread across the entire surface of the parent star. At this moment, the plaque quickly shrank and condensed like a living thing, turning into a black spot. In an instant, the black spots turned into the eyes of a huge peacock. Its head protruded from the ground, and its entire body became translucent, like the soul of the mother star. The huge white peacock emerged from the mother star. It uses its huge body to cover and surround almost half of the entire mother planet. Chirp. The white peacock roared and hissed violently towards the colorful light rippling deep in the universe. As if being agitated, the colorful light from the universe was originally falling towards the mother star along the white light pillar, but now it accelerated even faster. Countless rainbow water flows, much larger than the mother star, surged fiercely along the white light pillar. Boom! The rainbow tide washed hard on the surface of the mother planet, completely submerging the white peacock. In the white light, Klin and others stared dumbly at the mother star getting closer and closer, as well as the huge peacock above. Good boy! Such a big peacock! When did such a terrifying monster appear on the mother planet? Klin swallowed, feeling like he was getting hairy all over. What a great courage, Chi! You saw the truth. How dare you protect the entire mother planet by one person from the energy tide that destroys the consciousness? He also sighed sincerely. You must know that the scale of energy tides can be large or small, and this time the scale spans hundreds of light years. The mother star is about the same as a small ball in the spring tide. It is inconspicuous. The power of such a tide is far from that of a planet able to resist. Get ready, landing soon. Chi Yu had no idea that this tide would not affect the mother planet originally, but was provoked by the beam of light from himself and others. The red Chi-Yu mecha shot towards the mother star along with the white light, mixed in countless rainbow streams. On satellite. The woman in the white dress quietly looked at the rainbow tide that spread over half of the universe. Then he looked at the white peacock sitting on the mother planet. Level 9, she murmured softly. Number 3. A black shadow suddenly appeared in the wooden house behind him, flew out from the wooden house, and landed behind the woman. "What are your orders, controller? Where is Carthage? Inform him of the news here." "His chess pieces are growing too fast," the controller said calmly. "Just inform him," number 3 asked in return. "Then what are you going to do?" the controller asked the same question. "The area over Shinandi is not under my control. Whether he is G-Liasi or Nono Siwa, wouldn't it be better to just kill him if he affects the plan?" number 3 said coldly. "It's easy for all kinds of accidents to happen in the energy tide." The controller was silent. Neither of them spoke for a while. "Once he breaks through the holy knot and becomes the body of a saint, it will be really difficult," number 3 spoke again. "We have to consider Carthage's attitude. After all, he is one of Shinandi's clones. No one knows whether he represents Shinandi's wishes," the controller said calmly. "Just one of the 342 clones. But this one involves something different." Number 3 showed a hint of laughter. "Even if he breaks through the holy knot and enters the body of a saint, can he defeat the king? Or can he resist his majesty? But in theory they are the same level. King level and eternal movement are both theoretically the bodies of saints. It is just a concept that condenses representatives, and one does not. But in reality the gap is not as big as imagined," the controller refuted. "Then why don't you agree to kill him now?" number 3 asked strangely. "Because I..." Suddenly, a blood-like figure burst out from the dark depths of the universe, instantly falling beside the two of them, blasting a large number of flowers and plants on the ground into a mess and tattered. The figure fell like a bolt of lightning, but did not make any sound. The person who came was a fair-skinned woman covered in bloody robes, elegant and charming in gorgeous attire. But the countless black and red human-faced air currents surrounding its body with terror added a terrifying power to it. Astonishingly, it was Her Royal Highness Princess of the Evil Shadow Royal Family, Jaliosi's sister, the Holy Lord of Blood. A hint of fear suddenly flashed across the controller's always cold and ruthless eyes, his body tensed slightly, and he grasped the book in his hand tightly, ready to take action at any time. "It turns out to be His Highness the Holy Lord of Blood. Please forgive me for missing you from afar. Blood Holy Lord, the top master of the Evil Shadow Royal Family, there are also differences in the Holy Lord level. Although in theory, their eternal movers are on the same level as the King level, only those who know the truth know that the King level is actually the strongest person determined by the Holy Masters who have been fighting each other for many years, and each of them rules this large area on their behalf, so he was called King by the Holy Masters. This is also the original source of King level. The concept is actually the common ground that people find in these King level Masters. There is no specific combat level division for the Holy Lord level, there are only differences in combat effectiveness. Fame and status are all gained through killing. The so-called concept level is another name for the King level. And the Blood Holy Lord in front of him is known as the Overlord of the Evil Shadow Royal Family, who is most likely to enter the top King level. She challenged the previous generation King Finite 3 times, but all ended in failure, but she was able to escape unscathed. The Evil Shadow Royal Family also relied mainly on her to support and maintain their ruling area. "His Royal Highness the Holy Lord of Blood, are you coming here in person to deal with your brother yourself?" Number 3, however, did not taboo the other party at all. Anyway, he was just a clone here. And it's hidden, so the other party can't know who he is. Before he finished speaking, the Holy Lord of Blood appeared in front of him like a phantom, and thrust a hand into his chest. Bang! No 3's entire body completely collapsed and dispersed like black smoke, disappearing. Something that hides its head but shows its tail. The Blood Lord showed contempt on his face. He stretched out his index finger, looked at a little blood on his fingertip, then put it to his lips and sucked it in gently. "Aren't you going to control G-Liasi's behavior? He has violated the limits of the plan. If you don't control it, The king will not sit back and watch the plan be broken. Bang! The whole body of the controller was beaten so hard that it rolled and flew up. It shot into the wooden house with a bang, smashing the wooden door directly. After flying in, she was nowhere to be seen. You could only vaguely see her struggling to get up from the ground. Press me with the White King. The Holy Lord of Blood didn't even look at the controller, but looked at the giant peacock on the home planet with confusion. Why is Gelias's aura so weak? You actually want to absorb the energy of the energy tide. She became more and more confused, and then showed a trace of contempt. As expected of my stupid brother, he has been missing for such a short time and died again. To be so weak is simply a shame to the evil Shadow royal family. She slowly stretched out her jade-like slender fingers. Let me teach you how to exist in this universe as an evil Shadow royal family. A ball of scarlet blood burned in the palm of her hand. Boom! She suddenly pointed her hand at the only huge star in the solar system of her home planet. Grab it with 5 fingers. Buzz! The entire star actually shook violently, and the flames all over its body seemed to be dyed red with blood for an instant, burning with blood-red solar particles. Go! Ha 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 ha! The Holy Lord of Blood enjoyed feeling the huge heat of the star, and his whole body became excited as if it was filled with blood. Huge blood power surged through her body, making her whole body laugh wildly. With a bang, terrifying blood flames erupted all over her body, rising into the sky, shaking the entire asteroid violently in an instant, directly deviating from its original trajectory and flying towards the star. My stupid brother! Don't you want to swallow it? Let me give you a big gift. The Blood Lord laughed wildly. If you can't swallow it, you will die. Inside the wooden house. Madman! This madman! She actually wants to destroy the entire galaxy. The controller was so suppressed by this majestic and huge power that he didn't even dare to look at the other person. With the same Holy Master, the gap between them was as big as heaven and earth. The king will not let you go. Those who ruined the plan. She opened her mouth and spit out a mouthful of blood. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1101. The huge star is approaching, and the bloody sun is getting hotter and hotter. As the approach gets closer and closer, everyone on the entire mother planet feels the terrifying heat rising rapidly. Garen was the first to feel this terrifying change. As a peacock in the cold region, he has used the red snow and ice armor to completely transform into his true form. Although the peacock in the cold realm is just a shadow, the peacock in the cold realm is frantically devouring the infinite pure energy of this energy tide. The extremely violent energy flow of ordinary people is nothing compared to the near-immortal physique of the cold peacock. The huge white peacock shadow is frantically devouring this energy-flowing light. As for those who were not defeated in the siege of Garan, they did not survive the energy tide for 10 minutes before all their energy was completely washed away. If Galleon's aura hadn't covered and protected these two realms and absorbed the incoming energy tide, it is estimated that these deadly tides would have washed away all the conscious masters in these two realms at once, destroying everything. Human consciousness. Chixyagong surges crazily and improves. The blood vessels all over Garen's body were clearly exposed, all floating on the surface of his skin, looking extremely terrifying. Endless black clouds hovered above his head, and above him was the huge body of the cold peacock, but here he could only see a white flow of cold air, which was the flow of a blood vessel in the cold peacock's body. The entire peacock is not visible at all. All rainbow tides are blocked out by this white cold air. All the non-residents also realized something was wrong at this moment. The person they attacked seemed to be the one who really protected this area. They all looked at each other and fell to the ground, not knowing what to do. We can only wait and see what happens. Binglong and others also walked out of the villa and looked at the changes in the sky in shock, as if the entire world was completely centered on Galleon at the moment. On the ground outside, the white snow melted and was covered with a layer of white snow again. The forest went from vigorous to withered, from green to scorched black, and then covered with snow again. This strange scene of the changing color of the world and the vicissitudes of the sea is deeply imprinted in everyone's heart, and I'm afraid they will never forget it for the rest of their lives. Garen's aura quickly broke through the 15th level of red snow technique, which did not fall down, and entered the 16th level without any delay, and the 16th level was still rising crazily with the tide of absorbed energy. In just a few minutes, level 16 was broken through, and a bright ice seed slowly emerged behind him. The seed seemed to be carved from ice crystals, round and delicate. It was slowly planted into the void, took root, and sprouted, growing out strips of white ice crystal vines, automatically weaving a pattern like a screen behind Garen. Level 17 Garen closed his eyes and felt the slow growth of ice seeds. At the same time, in his own mind, a soul seed representing the extremely cold peacock in the cold domain slowly took shape. This soul species seems to be different from other soul species. It is no longer purely ethereal, but faintly carries the unique essence of the original consciousness of energy mechanics. Embed a trace of original consciousness into the soul seed. This is the new path of improvement created by the ancestors of the Chixyu sect in order to circumvent Pen Guyinduo's highest masterpiece, the soul seed, and the strongest power in the mecha world, the original consciousness. A fusion balance between the two. Half-soul species didn't expect that. Garen also didn't expect that Chixu's ancestors would actually use this method to break through the limit and enter the 9th level, which is equivalent to the level of Pen. The huge energy tide crazily poured into Garen's peacock. This was no longer something he actively swallowed, but the tide crazily squeezed into his peacock. There was no need to swallow it at all, just digest it. At this time, the horror of the peacock in the cold region was fully demonstrated. Garen clearly felt that as his strength improved, the digestion ability of the cold peacock also improved rapidly. The energy tide that was squeezed into his body was still barely digestible, but now it is gradually becoming more manageable. It is worthy of being the cosmic behemoth that Guyinduo was rampant for a while. This terrifying digestion ability is what makes the peacock mother in the cold region so powerful that she can be called immortal. Ding! At this moment, Garen seemed to hear a soft sound coming from behind him, as if the glass was colliding with each other. The vines grown from the ice seeds, and the vines weaved into a fine and huge screen, were finally completed at this moment. Countless ice crystal tree vines glowed with a faint white fluorescence, and at a glance, it seemed as if Garen was carrying a huge screen of white light vines behind his back. The original ice crystal wings were squeezed further behind the vine screen. Kaka. The ice crystal white vines behind Galen began to grow and spread crazily towards the surrounding space like tree roots. Soon, they covered the entire sky thousands of kilometers away. The sky and the ground are covered with a network of ice crystal tree roots and vines. The dark clouds in the sky have long since dispersed, and now the sun seems to be getting closer and hotter. Garen raised his head, and before he had time to feel the changes that had taken place in him, he looked at the sky in horror. What is this? He actually felt that the sun seemed to have turned red and was hitting the mother star at high speed. The sun is approaching. Fearing Huo and others also seemed to sense something was wrong. The interference from the endless energy particle storm at this moment was too powerful, and no instruments could be used. They could only judge through their eyes and senses. But even so, everyone can feel that the sun is approaching at high speed, and the mother star is getting hotter and hotter. If this continues, the entire mother planet will be destroyed, Diofi murmured, and for a moment he became a little confused. Under such a natural disaster, even if he was the leader of a domain, there was nothing he could do. What the hell is going on? Terror Fire roared, but his voice was distracted by the infinite energy flow and could only be transmitted within a few meters around him. At this moment, he thought of a lot, including his family, children, college, brothers, friends, and wives, and familiar faces kept flashing before his eyes. Oh my God! God, Why are you punishing me like this? Xinhua was completely stunned. A series of sudden changes caught him completely off guard. Now that the sun was rapidly approaching and the end of the world was coming, he didn't know how to react. In the face of such a natural disaster, if the sun cannot return to its original position, the entire mother planet will be completely scorched. No one alive could survive. Not only him, but all the masters who came to attack Garen also collapsed on the ground. Their eyes were dull, and they didn't know how to react at all. No matter how powerful they are, they cannot cope with such absolute power. Unconsciously, everyone's eyes fell on Garen. It must be him. He must be the one who caused this kind of apocalypse. As long as you kill him, everything will be restored to its original state. Each of these people looked ferocious. We can't delay it any longer. Everyone do it. Get rid of this devil. A man jumped up and rushed towards Garen. Kaka. His whole body was quickly frozen into ice by the cold air that spread from his feet. His whole body opened his eyes wide and stood in the ice. His body actually began to melt and rot quickly, like a candle. This change frightened everyone else. At this moment, Garen had no time to pay attention to these people. He concentrated on swallowing the heat of the rapidly approaching star. Terrifying heat was mixed into the energy tide like a tide, and solar particles that were more difficult to digest than the energy tide poured into his body crazily. What the sun itself spews out is not pure energy. Many things take a long time to digest and absorb and convert into cold energy. This is why Galen did not choose stars to absorb. In an instant, a white cold light erupted from his body, and he completely entered the 18th level of the red snow technique. Puff. But at the same time, Garen also spat out a mouthful of blood. It was an internal injury caused by various gaseous substances mixed in from the star. Cold energy and heat energy are fighting crazily. Two completely different energies are constantly colliding and tearing apart in the sky between the parent star and the star. The huge gravitational force gradually spread out, and the control of gravity around Galen could no longer be suppressed. It spread violently, and except for the protected area of the villa, all places sank instantly and quickly turned into a pitch-black abyss. The entire villa became an island. Who is it? Garen remembered that in the original situation, there was no star approaching this show. Who is it? He was in severe pain all over his body, and waves of tearing pain came back from the cold peacock's body. His consciousness gradually blurred, but the star got closer and closer. The digestion ability of the cold peacock was finally a little unable to withstand it. After all, she was not the real cold peacock mother, but still had an incorporeal body. Such a result was beyond Garen's imagination. Its sister. It's Gersha. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly a burst of wild laughter came from Garen's mind. It turned out to be the voice of Geliasi, who had been devoured by the nine-headed dragon soul seed. He was not completely eliminated, but the remaining part of his consciousness reawakened at this moment, and while Garen was severely injured and weak, he made a sound of ecstasy. You're dead. You're dead, Geliasi roared crazily with his last laugh. Even if his last soul was quickly devoured by the nine-headed dragon, he didn't care at all. Garen's consciousness was already a little blurry. At this moment, the star is not only destroying the mother star, but the main target is himself. The huge traction force of the star has completely locked him, making him unable to escape or avoid. We can only resist. The half-soul seed that had just condensed showed signs of cracking under the tremendous pressure. How could I die here? Garen's deepest subconscious roared, trying to break through this huge pressure. How could he fall here? He roared crazily, but he could not resist the terrifying pressure of the star at all. You are the last hope of our red snow sect for thousands of years, how could you fall here? Angry roars suddenly came from the ice armor on Garen's body. The humanoid souls of ancestors flew out from it, spinning crazily around Garen. You are destined to become the strongest person in Chixia for thousands of years. No. We can't let Chi Shui's hope die in a place like this. Anyone who stops us will die. The ancestors were so angry that they burned crazily, and the souls in the red snow ice armor burned fiercely, erupting with unparalleled terrifying power. Boom! Huge icy air currents rushed upwards, flying toward the rapidly approaching sun. A fierce bombardment hit the top, exploding into a stream of red-hot magma and particles. But everything is in vain, the sun is still approaching the mother star steadily. Boom! Another stream of icy air suddenly rose into the sky and hit the star. The power of the 9th level ancestors burned crazily, and the soul seeds melted, mixed with the power of galleons and soared into the sky. Boom! 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 Amidst the continuous ferocious impacts, the sun finally seemed to show signs of slowing down. After all, the power of the 9th level has reached a terrifying limit, and Garen is still devouring the power of the tide, turning it into cold energy and his own source of power. As long as his body can support it, he can have a steady stream of energy. The mother star trembled again, followed by bombardments again and again. Finally, I don't know how long it took, but the sun seemed to gradually start to move away. It's not that the mother planet has moved. The Garan energy mark came to this conclusion in a blur. Thump! He fell to his knees. The surroundings were desolate. Except for him, the villa was destroyed. The rest of the people were frozen and melted. Although such an impact was not aimed at them, there may be only a few who could survive. At this moment, Garen was kneeling alone on the stone pillar where the villa was located, with no one around him. The parent star and the sun finally returned to normal distance, and the color of the sun returned to its original color, no longer blood red. Garen's whole body was broken at this moment, and his blood was frozen by the cold air, like bloody scars on his body. The earth was red and yellow, with alternating high and low temperatures, turning the entire surface of the stone pillar and the surrounding distant land into a desert. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1102. On planet. The Holy Lord of Blood spat lightly. Did you actually survive? It's really pathetic, Giliacy. You're lucky this time. She actually stopped doing anything, just pulled off the red clothes at will, turned around and turned into a stream of blood into the void, disappearing. After a long time, the person in control of the wooden house slowly crawled out and exhaled hard, his body covered with bruises. She lay down on her back and looked at the huge blue mother star in the sky. There was actually a large scorched black patch on it, which was a scorch mark caused by a star that was too close. The mother planet was actually knocked out of the range of the energy tide. It's really terrifying. A black smoke appeared around the controller. The Holy Lord of Blood has surpassed the average king level, right? She has already formed her own concept of blood. The controller nodded. Yes, the teacher once said that one can be considered king only by manipulating the concept of all things. Gersha can already control stars. After all, stars also have their own bloodline in the concept. Such power has gone beyond control, Heian said in a low voice. Don't worry, the controller said calmly, she will challenge the king soon. No one can defeat his majesty, not even her. Even if she is not seriously injured after the first battle, she will die. Your majesty has made up his mind to unify everything. Really, Heian said clearly. Garen knelt on the ground. The sand was very hot. There was no longer any cold temperature on his body. The cold peacock was completely burned by the terrifying high temperature of the star. At this moment, he could not even emit his own cold air. Ha! He let out a long breath. The red snow armor had completely disappeared, and the soul seeds of all the ancestors had completely melted. In order to fight against the star, all their soul seeds that were not fully developed were turned into pure power and charged forward. This also became the key force that allowed Garen to survive in the end. This made Garen feel a little sad. All the ancestors of the Chixyu sect finally entrusted all their wishes to him. This is a heavy responsibility, but one that must be repaid. Click. The ice crystal vines behind Garen that looked like an ice crystal screen suddenly broke, and pieces fell onto the sand. Snapped. One of the pieces fell in front of him. With blurred vision, he stretched out his hand to grab the fragment. Laugh. Suddenly, a huge pillar of thick blue light burst out from the debris, fiercely penetrating Garen's chest. The beam of light shot straight into the sky, and the rumbling sounds continued, stirring up the whole newly clear blue sky. Tisk tisk tisk. At the same time, almost all the fragments burst out with dazzling blue light, turning into beams of light that penetrated Garen's chest from all directions. From a distance, it looked like dozens of blue light spears firmly fixing Garen on the sand, unable to move. Well. Garen reacted extremely quickly and immediately used his potential points to quickly pile a large number of potential points onto his body to quickly repair his body's injuries. But those blue lights are not real energy damage. Garen was stunned. He stretched out his hand and touched his chest. The blue light penetrated there, but he didn't feel any pain. Instead, an indescribable sense of comfort came from there. This is. He looked at his attribute column in confusion. But he was shocked to find that earth-shaking changes were taking place in the original gene column there. The mysterious gene that was originally a black mist is now completely clear. The black mist dissipated, revealing a mysterious platinum symbol. This symbol is very complex and looks like many symbols overlapped. What is this? At the moment when the symbol was completely formed, all the blue threads of the cold peacock in the body suddenly rushed over crazily, wrapping the symbol tightly and swallowing it up one by one. Call. Just in an instant, a ball of blue flames burst out from Ming's body. A steady stream of endless energy seemed to permeate out of the body out of thin air, pouring into the depths of Garen's mind, where the soul seed was. A brand new soul seed slowly condensed in the depths of his mind, juxtaposed with the other soul seeds. A new display slowly appeared on the property bar. Soul Seed Northern Halberdier Cold Flame True Water Evil Technique, Holy Phoenix Magic Book Cold Region Peacock Soul Species. The three soul seeds intertwined with traces of transparent current, seeming to be connected but also suspended independently. Blue, black gold, and white, the three soul species formed a triangular formation ring with each other and began to rotate slowly. The nearly endless energy seems to be diffused from these three soul seeds, as if the three soul seeds naturally derive new power. This power filled up Garen's body in just a short moment, and it was still frantically trying to pour into him. Huge pressure washed over Garen's body in waves. This terrifying pressure was so huge that even the previous stellar pressure was far less than 1% of it. Garen felt as if he was an ordinary person with an expanding balloon inside his body, seemingly at any time it might explode. This incident seemed to connect all the powers of his three soul seeds together, and at the same time a special derivative energy burst out. This trace of derived energy is so pure, but it can pull in endless external energy. The huge pressure caused Garen's body to burst with traces of scarlet blood. In the distance, the spaceships coming to observe are slowly approaching here. Scanning beams of light were directed towards the side. There seems to be someone over there, go see if there are any survivors. Spaceship number 2 eliminates danger. Alert No. 3. Intangible messages are exchanged in the air. Huck, hand me the focus rod. Okay, no problem. What's going on? Why is it so bright all of a sudden? Oh no. Oh my God. Run. There was no sound, and a pure white light exploded quietly, covering everything thousands of kilometers around it. These mechas that had just flown out of the spacecraft for inspection were not spared, and they melted and disappeared in the white light in an instant. Garen couldn't hold on any longer and completely exploded. His body exploded instantly, turning into large pieces of white and blue flesh, which exploded in all directions in the white light. It spread throughout the entire space of thousands of kilometers almost instantly. In an instant, countless white lights mixed with flesh and blood quickly turned into substance, actually forming a solid white ice peacock. The peacock form only formed for a moment, then disappeared directly, and everything was covered by white light again. Garen had a dream, a very long dream. In the dream, he was a giant peacock born from the depths of the universe. He swallowed a nearby asteroid as soon as he was born. Countless cold air filled the air, and even stars could only be frozen when they encountered it. The original coldness of the universe is where it thrives best. It instinctively swallows stars one after another in order to maintain the energy consumption of its increasingly expanding body. Occasionally, you will encounter resistance from some star explosions, but they are just like drinking cola, bubbles exploding in your mouth, and there is no threat at all. Time is meaningless, and its own huge gravity distorts the surrounding time. Countless years have passed, and it doesn't know how many years have passed. Gradually, strange creatures began to appear. They had heads and limbs. They looked ugly, but they were powerful. Each one is comparable to a planet. There were more and more of these creatures. At first they just waited and watched. After being eaten by themselves, they quickly left. Soon they were back. This time it seems that the person coming is stronger. They can make themselves fall asleep, which feels very comfortable and relaxing. Gradually, I like sleeping more and more. My brain seems to be a little unclear, as if I slept for too long. Too long, too long. Call. Garen suddenly woke up from his dream. Opening your eyes, you see a lush green forest in front of you. Turing was grilling a huge wild boar not far away. Seeing Garen waking up, the loyal two-headed wolf quickly got up and ran over. Master, you are finally awake. Turing's face was covered with haggardness and wounds, some of which were already rotten, revealing white bones. It was obvious that a long time had passed since the last battle. He carefully lifted Garen up. Come and have a drink of water. Feeling that his throat was a little dry, Garen took a few swigs of water from a metal kettle. The taste is very sweet. Okay, I'll do it myself. Garen sat up slowly and with difficulty. He quickly called up his potential points, but was shocked to find that all his potential points had been consumed. There is also a very conspicuous status symbol on the status bar. As soon as his eyes fell on it, he felt a stream of information flowing out. The cold peacock mother is growing. The Legion-level Dream Dimension ability of the three soul species has activated the evolution towards the ultimate body of the cold peacock, the cold hell peacock mother, but the evolution requires an unimaginable energy growth rate of 5%. Garen suddenly remembered something Hessas had mentioned back then. As long as three soul seeds serve as fuel backing, it is possible to forcefully push the limits of one's secret martial arts to a higher level. Sure enough, the three soul seeds have indeed caused great changes. Perhaps it is also the role of the mysterious genetic symbol. My cold domain peacock skill has already reached the highest level, but now I have made a new breakthrough. It has truly turned into a cold domain. Peacock Matrix. Garen was slightly surprised. Then he looked at his other states, schemed through most of the useless skills, and directly found the key column of the Cold Realm Red Snow skill. 18 levels of Chixia Kung Fu in the Cold Realm are perfected. Every move gives the ice aura of peak power at the 9th level. The 3rd level of Cold Enhancement, the 3rd level of Sharpness Enhancement, the 3rd level of Purity Enhancement, there is a symbol behind it, which appears in white. Garen's eyes moved up and he immediately sensed the information. The chaotic cold realm strengthens and increases all attributes. Strengthened. Add 1. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1103. The moment Garen sensed the symbol suddenly melted and quickly merged into the Qixuyegong column. There have also been new changes in Qixuyegong. 18 levels of Qixue Kung Fu in the Cold Realm are perfected. Every move gives the ice aura of peak power at the 9th level. Coldness is strengthened to the 4th level, sharpness is strengthened to the 4th level, purity is strengthened to the 4th level. Have all the enhancements been upgraded by 1 level? That's really good. Devouring so much energy not only condensed the soul seeds of the secret martial arts of life, but also led to the improvement of Qixuyegong. Jia Long inherited the memories of many ancestors and knew what the level of cold air was like after reaching the 18th level of the red snow technique. Among all the ancestors, the most powerful one is the first generation ancestor. His 18-level red snow skill has raised the cold enhancement to the 3rd level. The purity enhancement has also reached the 3rd level. There is no sharpness enhancement, but even so, it has reached an extremely terrifying point. No one would object if he was said to be among the top 10 ice masters. Among the top 10 strongest ice masters, he would definitely have a place among them. But it is a pity that although he was tyrannical at the beginning and made the Qixue sect glorious for a period of time, the successors behind him could not reach his height. Although some of the founders have reached the 18th level and condensed soul seeds, their level of strengthening, but it has been unable to reach the 3rd level, especially the cold strengthening. After searching for countless materials and using various technological means, it can only be strengthened to the 2nd level. As for the purity, it can only reach the 3rd level at most. As a result, the Red Snow sect fell from its status as a neutral sect. And now Garen has once again upgraded Qixuyegong to the 3rd level of strengthening, and even to the 4th level. With such power, Qi Shuekong has been trained to an unprecedented level. The last item is the most critical attribute column. Nono Siwalin Strength 50, Agility 50, Constitution 50, Add 8, Intelligence 42, Potential 0%, Soul Limit 50. Except for Intelligence, all other items became 50. The soul limit has also become 50. This is as expected by Garen. He originally planned to condense the soul seed of Qixue Kung Fu, but he didn't expect to condense the Peacock Kung Fu of the cold region. Apparently the two ice-based Kung Fu are closely related. Qixuyegong cannot be compared with the secret martial arts of life. So the ice awareness was replaced by the cold peacock skill. Sitting up straight, Garen retracted his attention and realized that what he had gained this time was beyond imagination. Where is this place? Garen retracted his gaze and then began to look at the surrounding environment. Master, this is still the mother planet. I carried you out from the center of the battlefield. I didn't go far for fear of being discovered by the searchers. Turing answered respectfully. You have been in a coma for 3 days. All of our equipment and props have been disabled by the energy field of the battle. We cannot jump away directly. We can only wait here for you to wake up. Really? Garen nodded and put down the kettle. He glanced at the tattered clothes on his body. The space decoration was also smashed and completely ineffective. Without even thinking about it, he knew that everything inside had floated into the turbulence of space. Is this still the Black Pan domain? He asked. Yes, we haven't gone too far, Turing answered honestly. What is the way to return to Scarlet Snow Star from here? Garen was not familiar with this aspect. I'm afraid I need to borrow a jump gate, go to the Central Academy first, and then find a good star warship to leave, Turing answered according to the formal method. No, it doesn't have to be like this. The Mechanic Master still has a stronghold in the radiation zone. Let's go directly to the stronghold and use the jump gate there to go to the capital of Nagadeco. That's how I went there back then. Garen shook his head and redetermined a route. But before leaving, let's go see the situation on the home planet. He exhaled one last time. I don't know which of those people survived. The two of them ate some barbecue and were immediately enveloped by the eternal light. They quickly flew up from the forest and instantly turned into a white light and disappeared into the sky. The speed of 50 points has far exceeded the ability of ordinary people to capture their sight. Even some instruments struggle to pick up signs. After flying in the sky for a while, Garen soon saw a black battleship in the distance. The battleship is in the shape of a torpedo boat, with the words Maria Domain printed on the outside. He flew directly over, got close to the battleship like lightning, and reached out to grab it. Squeak! A big hole was opened in the outer armor of the battleship. Galen and Turing walked straight in. Standing in the white passage of the spacecraft, the red warning lights overhead flashed and screamed. "Control this ship. Don't kill all the rebels. Leave some to fly the spaceship." Garen gave a casual order. "No." Turing nodded, immediately wrapped in the eternal light, and hit the wall of the passage arrogantly. Boom! The alloy of the wall was smashed and twisted and bent on both sides, highlighting the sharp metal fracture edges. Turing quickly walked in and rushed towards the bow of the ship. Garen walked slowly on the spaceship, feeling the spacecraft vibrate. The sound of dense footsteps soon came from ahead. "This way. The intruder is over here." A female voice kept coming. Suddenly Garen felt that Turing's aura seemed to be suppressed. He suddenly became interested. Turing is still invincible no matter what. Although it is weaker than the ordinary invincible ones and does not have so many moves, it is not something that the inheritance level can withstand. Now it is actually suppressed. But we can't waste time now. We must first determine our position. We can use the topographic map of this spaceship's database. Thinking of this, he no longer moved forward slowly, but faced the direction of the footsteps in front of him. Strode away. The silver-white metal passage turned a corner, and at an intersection, Garen saw a group of young women in golden clothes trotting over holding high-energy destruction guns. And the person leading the team was actually an acquaintance, Zero Gun Suana. Her iconic golden egg roll-like long hair was extremely conspicuous, coupled with her gentle yet strong temperament. Garen immediately recognized her. Of course, it was Garen who knew the other party, but the other party did not know Garen. Click. There was a uniform sound of gunfire. Before the team member who was about to shoot pulled the trigger, Suana opened her arms to block the muzzle of the gun. "No one is allowed to shoot," she shouted suddenly. His expression was extremely nervous, and his beautiful big eyes stared at Garen tightly without blinking. Garen also lowered his right palm, which he was preparing to attack. "I want to borrow your topographic map and go to Blackpan City in Blackpan Domain. Is that okay?" "No problem." Suana broke into a cold sweat and answered quickly. "My lord, we will be happy to take you wherever you want to go." She now felt the terror of Garen's power. After all, Garen released a trace of his fluctuating aura without any concealment. "That's good." Garen nodded with satisfaction. Seeing that Garen was not so violent, Suana breathed a sigh of relief and signaled the team members behind her to leave quickly. Ignoring the worried looks in her men's eyes, she slowly approached Garen. "Sir, please move to the living room." "Are you going to Hipan City?" "We also have people from Hipan City on board, and we happen to want to go there as well." Seeing that Suana was quite sensible, Garen did not embarrass her and asked Turing to stop and come back. The people on this ship who can suppress Turing are obviously masters who are not downgraded, and there cannot be many undegraded people in the Maria domain, so it is very likely that this ship is the main ship of their elites, and they happen to run into it. "By the way, how do you recognize me?" Garen saw in the other person's eyes that he was obviously no stranger to him. Suana smiled awkwardly. "When you were in the Aurora domain, we all saw your image." Oh, Garen finally understood. The spaceship traveled uneventfully and soon arrived at Blackpan City. No one other than Suana came to disturb the ship along the way. She had been drinking tea and chatting with Garen. Apparently he was afraid that if he came into contact with too many people, he would lose more than he gained by irritating Garen. It seemed that he had no ill intentions towards Swanagalan, so he simply allowed her to have contact with him. When he arrived at Black Pan City, Garen found a set of plain clothes on the spaceship and changed into them. He took Turing and flew out again like lightning, disappearing into the empty and deserted neighborhoods of Black Pan City in a few seconds. Suana on the spaceship breathed a sigh of relief. I originally thought that Diofi, who was not downgraded in the Black Pan territory, died and the place would not be able to support it. I didn't expect that this person actually has something to do with Black Pan City. It seems that the original devouring plan has to be changed. The Luoyang domain will notify us immediately. The Aurora domain is destroyed, and if we anger this master again, we may not be the next ones. A white-haired old woman appeared behind Suana, and she said solemnly with her hands behind her back. Try to have a good relationship with Black Pan. The old woman sighed, turned around and walked into the depths of the spacecraft. Garen first went to Black Pan Academy to check. Teacher Fan Duo seemed not to be in his residence, but it looked like he had just left shortly, and the coffee on the table was still hot. After being blocked by himself from the terrifying tide covering the Black Disk territory, the Black Disk territory and the surrounding Maria territory and Luia territory were all safe and sound. Only other colleges in the distance, including the Central College, suffered heavy losses, and the energy tide it was relatively short-lived, not as long as the original history, but it also completely hit the consciousness masters of various major colleges. Practitioners of consciousness at all stages are exposed to trauma of varying sizes. Garen left a letter on the table. After knowing the truth, he knew that the teacher had been taking care of Nono's relatives after he and Burin left. Although he gave up on himself in the end, he still did his best. The basic responsibility of being a teacher. This energy tide can be regarded as a reward for the Black Disk territory. If we stay any longer, the Black Disk domain will have no meaning. Galen took Turing to the inside of the Academy battleship again. Diofi was indeed dead. Many people were holding a memorial service and gathered together to observe silence. Galen mingled in the crowd and watched for a while. It was discovered that he was not the only one on the death list. None of the masters on the death list who had fought against him, including the Dean of the Central Academy, had survived. That's right. In that kind of environment, even I was severely injured, let alone them. As for the seriously injured Duke Nukem, Ice Dragon, and others, they must all be dead. It's a pity that there are so many twisted seeds implanted, but under the power of that kind of natural disaster, any resistance is meaningless. Garen was originally confident that he would survive this tide, but he did not expect the star that suddenly appeared in the end. It can be guessed from Jaliosi's words that the star that had never appeared before was probably made by Jaliosi's sister, a woman named Gersha. The evil Shadow Royal family are selfish and do whatever it takes to pursue power, and their relationships are very indifferent. It is not surprising that Jaliosi's sister behaves like this. What concerned Garen was that the name Gersha seemed to have appeared in the original history. She seemed to be the last major force in Finite to resist the White King's unification, and she died after failing to challenge the White King. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1104. After coming out of the funeral, Garen was still immersed in the shock of the majestic power of manipulating stars. He thought that his Chixyagong had now reached its peak, and was stronger than his first-generation ancestors. And even if I try my best to influence the stars, I'm afraid. Just because he can influence the mother star doesn't mean he can shake the star. The mass of the Sun is 290,000 times that of the parent star. What is the difference? It's the comparison between basketball and millet grains. Garen originally thought that he was already very strong, but he didn't expect such a measure. But in this world, he can no longer continue to improve. In the end, the only one who has hope is the cold hell peacock mother. He can feel that he has reached the level of the Legion. This breakthrough has completely reached the level of the Legion. Peaked. The actual combat power may not be only level 9, but it may be level 10. Even he himself can't tell clearly. The first generation ancestor back then was at the peak of the 9th level. And now he has surpassed him. Maybe it's comparable to level 10. Level 10 is considered a dominant figure in the entire universe. Many eternal movers are called saints. You don't know who is strong and who is weak until you fight them. Just like the secret martial arts world back then, everyone's fame occupied their own regional territory. No one dares to attack easily and provoke other perpetual motion classes. It's okay if you can beat him, but if you can't beat him, you'll be in trouble. Everyone is at the same level, directly one step below the other. In addition, perpetual motion machines are very difficult to kill. Perpetual motion represents a limit. The flawless disk can infinitely arouse the power of antimatter and directly absorb the energy of anti-space. Since time flows in reverse in anti-space, the perpetual motioners no longer care. Time, they are immortal, can affect time, and always maintain their strength at its peak. In this situation where everyone has unlimited energy, what matters is the difference in understanding and ability. I can now be considered a member of Naga Planet's perpetual mover. I just don't know if the Mechanic Master has any plan to deal with this crisis. Garen left Black Pen Academy and finally flew towards the direction of the number 7 ruins in his memory. That should be the place where Klin and others arrived at their home planet. Nyonyo's relatives are all dead, and only Burin is left. No matter what, he cannot let himself completely break his promise. As for the apprentice Tesna, who was originally planned to be accepted, it seemed that she passed out due to physical overdraft. Fortunately, Turing took her away in time and protected her from death. This can be regarded as passing Galleon's final test, luck. It seemed that she was very lucky. As an ordinary person, she survived such a horrific disaster that destroyed the world. It must be said that it was a miracle. When I go back this time, I have to think carefully about how to deal with this change, and Carthage. A cold look flashed in Garen's eyes. Home planet, ruins number 7. The place was in ruins, and thick white light pillars fell from the sky, completely turning the place into a large isolated island. The central ruins are still there, but the surroundings have completely turned into desert. From a distance, it looks like an isolated island floating in the desert ocean. Garen returned to this place after many years. Looking from a distance, the ruins were still the same as before, hazy, and it was hard to see what was inside. When he entered here, he was almost threatened by the terrifying time and space distortion. Let's go. Go see my dear brother. I don't know how long I haven't seen you. Galen was wearing a white robe, followed by Turing and Tesna, both of whom were also wearing white robes. Brother? Mentor also has a younger brother, Tesna asked confusedly as she didn't know anything about Garen. Just do whatever the teacher tells you to do. Why are there so many? Turing also hid himself in a huge white robe, looking like a deformed radioactive man. Oh, Tesna was a typical fool, and she nodded a little embarrassedly when she heard this. The three of them quickly walked towards the ruins. Not far behind them was the scooter that was rented from the Black Pen domain. Is the car left alone? Tesna looked back. It will go back automatically, Turing explained speechlessly. Automation? Such a big guy? Really good. Tesna was a little surprised. Since waking up, she seemed to have regained her natural personality as a girl and was no longer as cold as before. I feel curious about everything I look at. You have been living in the area and have never been out of the radiation area. It is right to be curious about everything outside, Garen explained with a smile. Come with me now, don't waste any time. My brother is still waiting for us. Oh, Tesna immediately stopped speaking and obeyed. This teacher looks mysterious, not like an ordinary fighter, but more like a traveler. She couldn't stay in that family anymore anyway, so she might as well leave the Black Pan territory with her new teacher, which might also be a new life. It's just that sometimes when she thinks about her brother, she still has a hard time forgetting her. She doesn't know how long it will be before she sees him again. The three of them walk slowly along the desert towards the ruins. All abnormalities in the ruins seem to have disappeared. Only the remaining fragments of the circus props and stage are still there, and the original weird factory parts and machines have disappeared. The once most mysterious number 7 ruins have now completely turned into ordinary ruins. Not long after walking, a small metal house that seemed to have just been built appeared faintly in front of it. It was built using readily available metal bracket materials. It looked very simple, but very strong. A young man with red hair was talking loudly to a girl with short white hair. The girl lowered her head shyly, but the young man looked carefree. Another beautiful girl in tight clothing just walked out of the room, with white jeans, a black tight top, and a wide black metal belt tied around her waist, with various strange-looking tools inserted into it. The girl who came out had a long black ponytail, and her fair skin was covered in patches of oil. However, her unusually upright figure could make any man unable to take his eyes away. It was completely different from the white-haired girl's purity and heroic spirit. Vibrant and incredibly sexy. If you identify carefully, you can find that the temperament of this heroic girl is somewhat similar to Galen. They seemed to hear footsteps in the distance, and the 3 people in front of the metal house followed the sound and looked over here. At first glance, the 3 people's eyes were focused on Turing, who had the strongest presence. Even if he shrank, he was still 2 meters tall, making anyone notice him immediately. Then there are Galleons. The moment she saw Garen, a pair of pliers that the ponytail girl was holding fell down with a clang. Elder brother. Her face was filled with surprise for a moment, and she ran towards Garen like crazy regardless of the oil on her body. Brother Nono, the young man Klin was also pleasantly surprised. You must know that he had long wanted to thank Brother Nono Siwa in person. If he hadn't taken action, he wouldn't have been able to escape from the Black Disk territory. Only the white-haired girl looked puzzled. A relieved smile appeared on Garen's face. Burin was okay. She was the only one left in Nyano's family. If something happened to her, then he would really feel guilty towards the owner of the body he occupied. Seeing Burin showing his true feelings, Garen opened his arms slightly and allowed her to pounce on him. Brother. I heard that you are missing. I have been looking for you for a long time and I can't find you. Where have you been? Burin cried with joy, tears streaming down his face, and threw himself into Galen's arms with a fierce hug. You really surprised me. Garen shook his head slightly, feeling Burin's soft body that no longer had any masculine characteristics. Bolan suddenly became a little stiff. Brother. You can't blame her. There's a reason why Burin is like this. Klin hurried over and shouted loudly. Of course I know, otherwise the first thing I would do when we meet is to give this kid a good beating, Garen said in a vicious tone. He carefully began to look at the future Red King in front of him. This is the Red King who can compete with the White King in the future, a terrifying existence that is more powerful than half a nebula, but now he looks like an ordinary crappy guy. Also, when did I allow you to call me Big Brother? Garen asked in displeasure. He stared at Klin condescendingly in Nono's usual arrogant and contemptuous tone. Klin touched his forehead and smiled stupidly, not knowing how to answer. By the way, brother, this is our new friend, Baidong. Burin immediately changed the subject, left Garen and ran to pull Baidong over. The shy Baidong lowered his head and was forcefully pulled over by her. He lowered his head timidly. Call brother, Burin said loudly, pressing his head. Big brother. Feels a bit like a gangster boss. Garen had a dark look on his face and waved his hands. Stop making trouble. How have you been spending this time? How could you live in a place like this after I left the Black Pan territory? This ruin is said to be very dangerous inside. This, This Burin glanced at Turing and Tesna. It's a long story. Because of the connection between Chiyu and Garen, Klin and others did not intend to hide it from Garen, but they were a little wary of the two people behind him. After all, these things were closely related to their experiences, and the consequences would be serious if they were leaked. Garen also understood and waved his hand, asking Turing to take Tesna for a walk outside. The two left knowingly, and the remaining people could communicate better. Burin immediately told Galen all the painful experiences he had experienced during this period. 4-ring star alliance. Extreme winter star? Garen knew it was Bayes' family planet as soon as he heard it. It used to be the planet of Bayes' Jidong family. Unexpectedly, it was now occupied by a guy named Ghost King. So, Chiyu has already obtained his own mecha components, Garen thought thoughtfully. Looking at the three people with different expressions in front of him, he asked about Chiyu's situation. Uncle, he was hit by the energy tide to protect us. Now he has been severely injured and is still recovering, Clint said helplessly, with a sad expression. Then what are you going to do? Just wait here for him to wake up, Garen asked. Clinton scratched his head and did not answer. Burin's eyes were also erratic, and it was obvious that Garen had guessed their plan. Seeing the performance of these two people, Garen suddenly felt a big headache. Compared with the current White King, they started planning decades ago, and the current Krillin is just a child who has not grown up. He is simply a person in the sky. One is on the ground. I really don't know how he finally grew up to become the Red King.